Hello, I am Captain Clever, and this is my video tutorial detailing how to speedrun Commander Keen, Episode 1, Marooned on Mars, using the category of beating the game as fast as possible, also known to runners as any percent. This will be as brief of a video as I can get. I'm a bit of a wordy guy, but I'll try to be pretty brief on this stuff, in outlining just all the bits and pieces in running this game. And then at the very end, I will actually go through and play a full run. No resets or anything like that, of course. I do have a timer ready to show that off, so that's cool. If you want to know where to find this game, you can look at one such place would be dosgames.com. I believe it comes through an installer, meaning you'd want to install it through, I don't know, say DOSBox if you're running DOSBox, or any means by that. And then you can play the game. You could also go to a place called shikadi.net. I believe if you just type /KeenWiki, that's sufficient. But if you just look up KeenWiki on an internet search like Google, you'll probably find it there too. And you can find all of those because this game is shareware. It's freely distributable, so you can find it around there too. Otherwise, if you plan on running a number of these games, including ones that aren't free to distribute, you can always just go to Steam. I believe 3D Realms Anthology has Commander Keen available. There's a few different places that you can purchase the games from. Anyway, with that said, I guess we should just talk a little bit about configuration. I'm using DOSBox right now. The configuration is really more or less how you want it for video. If you're curious, I use Direct Draw, shortened to DDraw, as the output. My resolution is 960 by 720, and I don't use full screen or anything like that. So whatever, those aren't too important. The big important one for all of these games is actually that they're generally run on cycles max, just to minimize loading times. The games otherwise run effectively, and they don't have any weird speed up timing issues as a result of turning the cycles all the way up. But by minimizing loading times, you're making the run a little bit faster. If you don't, it's okay. If you're getting good times, I'm more than happy to actually go through and figure out the difference in loading times and figure out the effective time of the run. But we always assume that the loading times are as minimal as possible when we're timing it. So, yeah, I think that's good. So I think I also changed an audio setting, but that's just to make it sound nicer, and whatever. It sounds nicer to me. But let's go ahead and get started. By the way, if you were playing at, say, auto cycles, that would take a lot longer to get through. So this just kind of goes instantaneously, so it's nice. So, welcome to Commander Keen. There's all these things. All you really care about is new game. Continue game is for loading, and you can save the game anywhere on the overworld and come back to it, so you can practice individual levels that way. By pressing F3, you can bring up keyboard commands, and if you notice, mine are a little bit customized, most notably on buttons 8 and 9. These are normally Control and Alt, respectively. I will actually show my, on screen right there. You can see the buttons that I'll be using. These are the only buttons that really are used. And in fact, the up and down arrows generally aren't used, other than overworld movement. So it's mostly the 4 buttons, but the 2 we care about, button 1, which is Z, and button 2, which is C, those are our 2 buttons that we use. This game actually has 3 commands, and I'll talk in just a moment about that. But let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome to Commander Keen. Timer would start as soon as we move. And if you notice when we're moving, we can move in all sorts of directions. We can even move diagonally, and diagonally is faster than moving in one or the other because it just combines the horizontal and vertical movements. It doesn't do any weird Euclidean norm stuff where you have to worry about, oh man, the radial distance has to be the same. No, we don't care about that. So anyway, this game has 7 levels that we have to go through. 2 of them are levels that are in the way. 4 of them are part of our objective, which is to collect all these ship parts. And there's one where we just collect this thing, which is super important. And we'll talk about it as soon as we get it, but just know that it is the fun part of these runs. Anyway, that was the overworld. This is the normal screen where we're doing things and we're interacting with the game more normally. So, let's talk just a little bit about control. I'm going to talk about control more so than I would in other videos here because this is often the gateway game into Commander Keen, especially the first 3 games. If you're watching the other 2 videos, I will talk briefly about certain maneuvers, but otherwise it is assumed that you know how to play those games well enough. But To go over it quickly, Commander Keen has momentum. He's got gravity, so up and down momentum. He's also got a little momentum going left and right. Notice that when I'm pushing these buttons, I am not instantly changing to the other direction. It takes a little bit of time for me to switch over. So I kind of talk about it in terms of it being like, I don't know, Super Mario Brothers 3-ish, maybe Super Mario World-ish. It's not quite as slippery as the first Super Mario Brothers, but it's a bit rough. There's also ice physics in this game. We don't see it too much, but we see it enough that it can be a problem. So just be aware of that. Whenever we jump, it takes a little bit of time to jump, and every time we do, we completely halt our horizontal momentum. It's something to be aware of. As a rule of thumb, jump as little as possible, because the fewer jumps that you're making, the fewer that will halt your progress and the less time it takes to do the run. It might not seem like a lot, but this run is pretty well optimized at this point, so any little changes will be significant. Anyway, this level, we don't have, if you notice, the pogo button doesn't do anything. We don't have the pogo button. All we got is a jump. If we press both buttons at the same time, we'll enter this weird state where it looks like we might have a gun or that we're shooting something from our stomach. This is the fire button. If we had a weapon, we would be shooting lasers. But notice that we only change from firing to not firing when both buttons are, in fact, released. And in fact, we can only fire as soon as both buttons are actually around and stuff. Although you can kind of, I guess you have to press both. I never really look too much at the details. I usually just end up pressing both anyway when I'm firing, just to be safe about it. And I think it's just acting weird because I don't have the pogo stick, which is a very rare occurrence in Commander Keen. We don't even see it in 2 and 3. We just have the pogo stick. So I'm not used to those, but we never fire a shot in this level anyway, and we pick up the pogo in the next level, so it's not truly important. In this level, we can just do a number of jumps, and that'll get us exactly where we need to go. The first thing we do is pass the Yorp. He'll be in our way, and then we jump up here, jump, grab the gun, jump again. A lot of these can be done in quick succession of each other. Were I just going through the level, I would have my muscle memory of getting through there. This Yorp is one of the biggest issues in this level if you're trying to go through fast. You want to jump as close as you can to these clam hazards, which will kill you. Everything kills you in one hit, by the way. To get past this Yorp. Otherwise, he gets in the way. From here, you want to jump again, and we reach this part. This part is another annoying part of this level. We want to be either in the middle here, such that the Yorp doesn't get in our way, or we can jump at the very edge of this block, and we'll make it here. So those are 2 different methods. You don't want to have to line yourself up to get here, of course. You want to do it as quickly as possible. I find that of the 2, this one's a little bit easier to pull off, but it does also mean that the Yorps could get in the way more often. But from here, we just jump, and we jump again, and we're done with the level. It's like maybe 10 jumps is the entire level. We don't shoot. We need most of these ray guns. In fact, if you're playing the run and being as safe as possible while moving as quickly as possible, you will use all of these shots. So, from here we go up to this little building, and this building has the pogo shrine. So, all we have to do is hold right and jump, and there we go. That's the level. So we just pick up the pogo stick. Pogo stick is awesome. We'll see its use in the next level as I get to it. But one thing that's important to note in this game is that you have buffering of your commands between, like, when you start a level and when you're doing certain commands and when you're going from the overworld to a level and vice versa. You can always just hold your inputs, but you can't really hold more than one going from the level to the overworld. So for instance, when I leave that level, I usually hold the right button, and as soon as I enter the overworld, I also hold down, and that moves me as quick as possible. Technically, you could use the diagonal keys. You'll notice there are diagonal keys, but at most you'd be saving like a frame, and it's probably more annoying to play the game with diagonal buttons and then switch over and stuff like that. So let's move on to the next one. Oh, and notice, for instance, I'm going to right now, just for the sake of showing buffering inputs, I'm going to press the jump key to start the level and then hold it. And you'll notice I'll just start jumping. And I will just jump infinitely while holding the jump key, which is cool. Pogo doesn't matter. Pogo is just a toggle, so we don't really care about that one. But okay, welcome to the Pogo. If you notice, pressing nothing keeps me jumping continuously. And it's almost exactly the same height. It might even be exactly the same height as this jump. One thing to note is that when you have a pogo, it takes a little bit less time to jump with the pogo, like to get off the ground, than it does with a normal jump. So when you do have to perform jumps that are going somewhere, you almost always want to use the pogo. You might want to use the normal jump if you find that you're not going to have a lot of time to accurately orient your horizontal momentum. I guess I'll put it that way. Because if you notice, with the pogo stick, it's very hard to reverse direction. Wait, I'm gonna die. Yep, that's how hard it is. So what you want to do instead is that maybe you want to switch from pogo back to jump as soon as you're done with your getting as high as you possibly want. If you hold the jump button when you're pogoing, you jump a lot higher. Now, what the developers originally intended in this very first game is that you would press your pogo button and then you would press your jump button to get high. But you can, with precise button pressing, press the pogo key and then press the jump key, and you'll get that high jump early. This is what's known as an impossible pogo trick, and is in fact kind of difficult to do, if only because if you mess it up, you accidentally fire. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to waste your shots. You don't want to waste your time, because when you fire, you hold all of your momentum. Gravity affects you, but your horizontal is completely wiped out. So you don't want to do that. And that should hopefully cover everything about control. I don't want to go too much over it. I might even make a video detailing other details about the movement and stuff. But needless to say, it's difficult, and it's stuff that you have to worry about. You can also precisely control both your jump and your pogo. You don't have to jump all the way or not at all. And I will show an example of this here. Like, for instance, if I'm jumping all the way, I will land on this with a little bit of time to waste waiting for me to fall down. But if I'm precise... Ooh, okay, hold on. If I'm precise... Can I not do it with this one? Well, I guess you can't do it as precise as I had hoped, but I can do it a little bit faster, basically, with more precise motion, like so. Otherwise, if you're holding the button down, it'll take a lot longer for you to get through that. Now for this section, we want to make sure, and this is kind of a safe strat, although you can do it by losing very little time. What you want to do is bump this wall, and by bumping this wall, you'll see, as soon as he shows up, this Yorp right here will activate. Enemies only activate, and they only animate, is what I usually call it, when you get close enough to them, and they're typically either on screen or very close to the screen when that happens. If you don't do that, you eventually... Hold on. Okay. You eventually have to come to this point, and then the Yorp will be in your way because he's like right over here, and you're trying to jump from right here, and he might just bounce you, and it sucks. So that's no good. So you always want to just kind of bump this wall and then make your way up. Let me just try to show an example of doing that quickly. Like that. So that doesn't really lose too much time. So it's pretty good. I like it anyway. So from here we want to go up to this area, and then we head down. Try to go through the corner of this, because if you do so, you'll always land on this blue one, which you want to. Otherwise, you'll land under where the clams are, and that's no good. Now, a slide shot. You might have noticed when I fired my weapon, I talked about how you completely lose your horizontal momentum when you're firing. The one exception to this is if you fire just before you hit the ground, and you'll actually slide for a bit. You'll stop moving, ultimately, but you will keep enough momentum to be continuously moving almost at maximum speed. And that just saves a little bit of time, as opposed to, say, firing on the ground, which then you have to stop moving altogether, or just getting hit by this guy and potentially losing time that way. Slide shots is what we use for those first 5 shots I was talking about. If you're worried about accidentally losing shots from doing impossible pogo tricks, which you definitely can, then be careful about it. Maybe you don't want to use slide shots at first, but the option is there. So from here, we just want to make some jumps real quick. I like to jump on the top area here. Hold on. I can show it. I like to jump up here just because it's a little bit safer, especially if you didn't get the Yorp. It also sets us up for this nice little jump setup here. Just press, and you're good, and then you press, and you're good. And then you can do maximum jumps, or almost maximum jumps here for your height. You just go up 3 times, and you're good. Now here, we get to really make use of the impossible pogo trick by making this jump. It doesn't require an impossible pogo trick, but it's definitely a lot easier once you get a good grasp on that. Also, if I start calling impossible pogo trick IPT, it's just because that's the acronym, and it's a little easier to say. So, yes, anyway. Also, as a rule of thumb, once you get good at IPTs, you should really just start using them kind of by default all the time, even if you don't really need the height. unless you know precisely that you're going to be jumping at exactly this height, you'll always want to kind of be trying to do IPTs. So now we end up here. And this is the first of the major enemy in this game, called the Vortican. The Vortican is a giant, well, he's bigger than other enemies, but he hops, and he hops kind of randomly, and it sucks. This is the major obstacle of this run. This is the major RNG of this run, because if you get touched by one of these guys, unlike the Yorps, you will actually die, and that's no good. So, just gotta jump past him, and you're good to go. This is one of the 4 items we need, and yes. We've been collecting keys. I haven't really been talking about it, but the reason we don't go straight for the exit is because we need to collect keys to maybe collect other keys to get to the exit. So from here, we're going to head up to this area. This is a fun little overworld optimization. If you just hold the up and right buttons and your enter button, you will just barely nick the corner of this, which is exactly what you need to get to this level. So from here, and I'm not going to show slide shots except when I do the actual run, but we would be slide shotting a lot of the Yorps in this area as we go through, just to be safe. But from here, we just take a pogo, up and up. I recommend that particular method, by the way. You could start by going pogo, pogo, and then little jump, but you might bump into this area. By starting with, or if you can, do a 2-tile jump, which is a 2-frame trick, but come on, I want to show it. There you go. That would be the most optimal, but the pogo, 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 like that, and you're good to go. So minimum pogo and then 2 maximums. And you can get through this area very cleanly. So from here we need to get a yellow key, and notice that this guy will bounce us, even though it seems like we should be able to jump on him. Just a quick note. I'm just going to go past this. I don't want a slide shot, but you can see how these guys can potentially get in your way if you don't. So we grab the yellow key, and we head over here to use the yellow key. Past that guy. If he's close like that, it's great. You don't even have to slide shot. You just jump on him. Otherwise, you can slide shot, and he can get pretty far, but you'll still hit him. From here, I'm doing minimum pogo jumps. Not even bothering with the jump button, because I know all of these jumps work pretty well. Oh, sorry. Right there, I didn't want to. Instead, you want to fall off, because it's faster to fall off than it is... Horizontally, it is faster to fall off than it is to make a jump off. And now we want to end up here. Well, why are we going here? Why are we backtracking? The main reason is because we can make a little bit of a shortcut. It's the one major glitch in this run, and I'll try to show it off in its barest form. This is the hardest way to pull it off. I will show the setup in just a moment, but this is to give an idea of the difficulty of performing this glitch, or this trick. Not quite. You have to be on the very edge, and you can see I am on the very tip of this ledge here. Come on. And it's got to be an IPT when you do it too. There we go. So we're just kind of in the tile here, and that's pretty cool. And now we can jump to the other side and stuff. You can also do it from this side. Timing's a lot less strict on this side for some reason, but whatever. So that looked really hard, right? Well, if you have a setup, and that wasn't quite the setup, but by using a setup, this is what I used to do, which is harder than the setup I will show, but by performing it this way, you build enough momentum so that you don't have to worry about getting it at the very edge, and that saves a little bit of trouble. But there's an even easier setup, which is this. Bada bing, bada boom. So you're in there, and what you want to do is line Keen up to right in this area, right in the middle of this second block. And if you do so, and you pull off your jump, all you have to do is hold right and right and jump, and you get right in there. And you have a couple pixels. You don't have to be directly on the center for that. And then there you go. So you're up here, and that saves, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds, something like that. I never truly timed the difference, but before I did that, I could never get under 4 minutes, and then as soon as I did, I was getting it pretty easily. So that sort of thing. Now this guy is pretty annoying. Slowest strat, you can just try to wait for him. If you want to be semi-safe, what you can do is wait in this little block until he moves and then come down. And then, of course, the most dangerous is to just jump and hope that he moves out of the way in time. But there you go. That's the second level. Second level with Vortigans. I think we're on the 4th level, moving on to the 5th now. So this level is big. This level is huge, in fact, but we know the fastest way to get through it. So we start with a series of 4 jumps. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one. Bam. This is a bit of a tough jump because it requires us to properly know when to jump in with the momentum of the horizontal movement. If you can't do this all in one go very quickly, instead what you want to do is just jump up top here, and that's a lot safer because there's no worry about horizontal momentum. You just go right through. Well, you just do a couple of jumps. Pogo can be a little bit dangerous on getting this to work correctly. You have to build up a little bit of momentum correctly. I would just recommend using normal hops. But from here we do 2 minimum height pogo jump things. Oh, I almost messed that up. You can actually do it right from here. You don't even have to worry about building the correct momentum. Because these guys look scary, but just by holding right you can get past them. And from here we want to do some more precise pogo jumps. 1, 2, 3, and then a minimum. So this is where a lot of people can get confused just because it's like not a very obvious method of moving, and I'm not even familiar with this level, so trying to backtrack was kind of rough all by itself. But let's just show this off again. 1, 2, 3, I might not even get it. Okay, 4. And then up we go. 2, on the right side, 3, 4, and the hop. So there we go. It's a pretty easy series of hops. When you get good at the control of this game, it's not bad at all, but that's how that goes. You have to press the button, by the way. I was watching a video of somebody playing this game and they didn't realize you have to push, but you do. You can just hold. There's really nothing special about that. So. Okay, and if you notice, if I'm holding the keys right now, I don't move, but if I'm holding the 1 button, I instantly start moving. It's a good example of how the overworld kind of chooses to react to certain button combinations, so yeah. And whenever you don't have an easy setup, just always try to hit the very corner of the map when you enter it, because for instance, I'm going to be heading down, so I might as well make as much time back as I can. Welcome to ice physics. Ice physics they basically just keep me moving constantly. It's a lot like, now, it's like, well, there's not ice physics here. The up and down buttons act like ice physics for this game. Don't use them for cruise control because it's not quite as fast as actually moving with the left and right keys by holding them. But it does exist. It's kind of like, I don't know why they're there. They're just there, but whatever. So this level's a bit tricky with the movement. We want to get up here. And then this kind of jump is a bit tricky. This kind of jump's even trickier. You want to do so without losing your momentum, because if you bump into the wall, you lose all your horizontal momentum and you have to get it back. And that's just, little time saves here and there. That sort of thing. So, up, up. If you can't have full momentum going into the second jump, it might even be impossible to get full momentum going into the second jump, but having any momentum is better than losing it on that block. So from here what I usually do is I take the pogo and then I use the jump. If you continually use pogo, you'll probably run into momentum issues. So that's one use of using the normal jump, is that it just completely stops your momentum in the horizontal direction, whereas with pogo, some of it kind of transfers. So from here we want to do 3 jumps. I usually perform it by going as low as I can here. If you are at the very first, I don't know, cylinder block thing, you won't actually make this in 2 high jumps, so I always aim for the second one. From here we grab the key. We don't even have to worry about special jump. Minimum pogo is enough. And now here's the second ice physics, which is it's like a conveyor belt, basically. And then we would continue moving. What you can do for this section to save just a wee bit of time is to jump a little bit early. And you can kind of sneak in there a little bit faster. I don't even think that saved time, but whatever. More like that. Now this guy. This guy's annoying. I have enough shots, so I'm going to... Yeah. So you can jump past him. It's pretty scary because he's random and there's very little room to move here. But you also can shoot him. The difference between shooting and not shooting is, I don't know, like 2, maybe 3 seconds if he kind of jumps over some. But it's not too awful. That guy, though, is what can cost a number of runs in this run, as well as the previous 4. And from here, we just head all the way to the bottom of the planet, the dark side of, well, this, I don't know, the South Pole of Mars, off to this level. It's a very, very obvious looking level. And from here, we're going to head over to the final item we need in the final Vortican. From here, I like to count 5 pulls and then jump. If you jump correctly, you won't see Keen at all when you perform the jump, and you can just hold right and pogo to get to where you need. If you miss it by a little bit, you end up bumping the block, and that loses just a little bit of momentum, which is no good. So from here, we want to do some jumps. Now, there's 2 ways to go up this area. The first is from here, which only requires 1 tile gap of the difference here, which is very doable all the time with, I don't know, if you're just performing normal jumps to go around here. The other style requires a 2 gap, and it does require you to make use of the wall here. If you remember, I was saying that when you hit a wall, you lose all your horizontal momentum. We actually want that in this case because we want to go in the other direction, and that gives us just enough, well, by halting it, it makes it so we don't have to fight against the momentum we would otherwise be dealing with when we'd have to get up here. So it allows us to perform this. And this one's a little bit faster because it's just fewer jumps in general, which is nice. So yeah. And then we come up here. This guy, he bumps us if we bump into him, but he does kill us with the laser. I usually just wait on this guy until I get an opening. Typically, you don't need to wait for more than a fraction of a second, and every fraction of a second counts. So just try to be a little bit safe with him. I think I'm even safe in my current record time, so whatever. Now this jump. This jump's a bit annoying with the ice physics to get up here. From here, you just want to bump. And again, bump this this block. If you just fall off of here, you're perfectly fine, and then press pogo, and then you're up here. But I will show a slightly alternative route, which is a bit important. If you happen to fall here, you will lose, I don't know, about 10 seconds, which is pretty significant. But from here, don't hug this wall, because otherwise you will bounce, you will fall directly into one of these guys, which keep bouncing you, and that's no good. But from here, we just jump a couple times, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're back up here. So that's cool. You can actually see these blocks. Hopefully you can see these. This is like a pixel of a invisible block. Now we go up here, and this final section is all about the optimization of your movement. And look at the ice physics; it just keeps you moving. If you just try to hold the pogo button here, you'll end up going 3 times. With some careful movement, you can take this in 2, and that's how you want to perform this. As I've said before earlier a couple times, if you lose or if you have to not be moving at full momentum in order to do this, it's okay as long as you're doing fewer jumps and yeah, fewer jumps and whatnot. You'll be saving time. Now we get past this guy. If you're going as fast as possible, this guy will never get in your way. You can actually walk through this ice and he can't mess with you. It's the specialness of the physics, so that's cool. Now for this final area. I like to do another bounce on the wall, and then I like to perform I like to bump my head off of this block, do a pogo jump, a little bit off of the timing. Pogo jump, and then up and up. There's a couple other ways to do this, for instance, just going directly for the jump up here. And if you notice, that seems to require fewer jumps, but you also you can mess this up a lot more, and you end up having a little more air time and stuff too. But I believe they're about the same amount of time. So from here, you might notice we don't have a lot of shots. This guy takes like 100 shots to kill. He's practically impossible to kill. And you could get around him down there, but it's really hard to do so. Instead, we have this giant boulder, we got this chain, we got a laser gun. Let's just do the dirty deed. And that's how that goes. So from here, we would collect the final item, and as soon as you enter that exit, as soon as you get into that exit and you hear the or I don't remember exactly how it goes, but that would be when time ends. So also, fun fact, you can't exit a level while you're in the pogo, so you could just collect the teddy bear from there. So that's cool. I'm not going to show the exit. I will let it play when I'm going through the normal run, but it's like a minute and a half unskippable cutscene. So let's show off the actual run now. I got my timer. Let's get it up there, and here we go. So just to briefly mention, if there are any questions that people have that require more than just a couple sentences to explain, I'm perfectly fine with making a video to describe it. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. All right, so timer starts as soon as we begin moving right now. So let's see how well this goes. I'll try to show off a couple of safety things, but I can just hold the button here, 1, and then 1, 2. If you immediately jump as soon as you grab the gun, you're good on that. And off we go. Ah, he stopped me just a little bit. It's a little bit in the way there, but finishing that level in around the 20-second mark is good. So from here we can just buffer jump, buffer and hold and stuff, and we're good. Notice I'm holding the right button, and then I go down. And off to this level. So this is the first, complicated level. We want to precisely control our pogos here. Bump that wall to activate the Yorp. Grab the key. And off we go downwards. Okay, I didn't quite clip the corner like I wanted to. Here's a slide shot. Make some jumps here and there. I like to jump up here for the setup. Just minimum pogo right here, and then a couple of maximums. 3 maximums. Off we go with the impossible pogo trick. I mean, really, most of, if not all of these jumps are impossible pogo tricks, but yeah. So I want to hold down for this one, and then up right, and the key, and there we go. Now I'm going to slide shot all these guys, just to show what I would be doing normally. I just don't want them in the way, basically. The first shot isn't a slide shot, but it's a bit of a trick shot anyway, so just to be so you're aware of that. So there we go. And I've used up all of my shots. All of them are used up. Just making some jumps here. Yeah, if you can fall and then perform your jump, it's just a little bit faster than having to do, a whole separate jump. Special setup to get this trick. And we're good. First try. Oh, he did it. He did the hop. And that can happen. That's always a reset, because it loses you so much time, but that can happen. So what else could I talk about in the meantime while I'm trying to get through this? I'm just going to play safe with him next time, but I just wanted... It's good to show the potential perils of this run. Tutorial run doesn't have to be perfect after all. But, this game, well, I guess I'll just say briefly that this game is the warm-up compared to Keen's 2 and 3. Keen 3 is shorter by half. It's less than a 2-minute run, but there's a lot of special execution required. Oh, messed that one up. Okay, I think... Nope, yeah. It's a little bit off. I guess you want to be a little later rather than earlier on that. So, yeah. Actually, how many shots? No, I don't have enough shots. Actually, here. Okay, great. Now I don't have any shots for the next guy. Whatever. Moving on. But those guys take 4 shots to kill. Hopefully the one in Ice City. I usually shoot the one in Ice City if I'm trying to be safe. But anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. And up we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I was a little bit off there. But whatever. Same amount of time. There's enough room there to be just fine. Off to the Ice City thing. And having 0 shots is bad. You might be thinking, what the heck are you gonna do, man? You don't have enough shots to finish the game. I do have a backup strat. It's kind of more of a race backup strat because it does take a significant amount of time. It's nothing you'd ever really do in a run, but I will try to show it off. And hopefully this Vortican will be nice because this level's a bit long too. That was a bit bad of a jump there. Let's try to do it correctly. Okay. And what you gonna do for me, dude? Okay, he didn't... I swear, when he doesn't jump, that scares me more than when he does jump early. Alright, so what you want to do if you don't have any shots is go to this level, grab a gun, and get yourself killed. This is definitely the fastest gun you can get at this point. And also get yourself killed, because you can't just exit a level in this game. So, off we go to Vortican Commander's Castle. And we want to count the poles here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll be good. 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. And we go up here. Always, use those maximum pogos. As few jumps as possible is always good. Oh, he wasn't nice. Happens, though. Up here. We don't want to lose those 10 seconds after all. And up we go. This guy never gets in the way. And the final hit. And then time, right then. So that was... I mean, I died once. That was the major time loss. I also had to go for the... grab the extra bit, but that's the run. Going for around a 4-minute time is good. Going for something like a 350 is super good. Like the record is a 347, and the old record used to be a 351 for a while before I snagged it with a low, or I think it was a low 350. But yeah, so that's the run. I'd say it's the easiest of all the Commander Keens, just to play and to do relatively well in. The other ones either require a lot of luck or a lot of ridiculous execution, sometimes glitch executions. But yeah, so that is the game. I hope this has been educational for anyone wishing to run this game. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will be more than happy to answer. If there are questions that require more than just a written explanation, I will be more than happy to make a little video answer, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's it for me. Like I said, if you need to find these games, you can go to shikadi.net/KeenWiki, or just look up Commander Keen Wiki. You can also go to dosgames.com. You can also buy these games off of Steam or 3D Realms or maybe even GOG. I'm not quite sure on that last one. But yeah, so thank you for watching, and I hope to see more runners of this game. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. Of all the Commander Keens, there's probably the most runners of this game, so that's where a lot of people get into it. Anyway, last time, thank you for watching, and have a good one.